Welcome to another study of the Life of Christ video. We are on lesson 15 today, and we are on fishing trip number 3, fishing at work. We are in the middle, 3 weeks into Jesus' 6 fishing trips that he took his disciples on. As soon as he started the new phase of ministry multiplication, he is now investing in his disciples, teaching them to do the work of the ministry by modeling it to them. And there's these 6 different stories that have been selected that show, in the same short time period, show Jesus modeling ministry, fishing for people in different environments. So today is fishing at work. We've looked at fishing at the church, and when Jesus was at the synagogue, cast out a demon-possessed man. We've looked at fishing in the home, where Jesus goes to Peter's house and heals Peter's mother-in-law, and then also casts out demons from the home and heals people. Today is fishing at work. So we've noted that the call before this event, recorded in Luke 4:18 and Mark 1:16, Jesus has called his disciples out of fishing to fishing for people. And he's given them a new job, a new role, a new occupation. And he wants them to follow him, and he will teach them to be fishers of men. And that is what his goal is for the time being. He's called them away from fishing. We've already seen Simon and Andrew fishing, and Jesus to say, "Come follow me, and I will make you fishers of men," in Mark 1:17. And there's another parallel passage. Remember, we talked about when we did this, the call of the 4, that there's another passage that some harmonies put parallel, but I believe that it took place later because it's a different story, it's written differently, and also the timing of things, the circumstances are quite a bit different. And that's in Luke 5, 1 through 11. That's our fishing expedition number 3 today. So turn your Bibles to Luke 5, 1 through 11. If you have a harmony, it's on page 57, but it's only in Luke, so the harmony is not as important. We always like to go through kind of where we are in the timeline. Jesus is 31. This location is Lake Gennesaret, as Luke calls it, or also the Sea of Galilee by Capernaum. And our characters today are Jesus, Simon Peter, as well as James and John, and probably Andrew, but mainly between Jesus and Simon Peter. I've chosen today's location because I'm not with you. We would have gone somewhere on our field trip, but I am in a workplace. This is one of my workplaces. This is a rental house. We've been doing some work here that has new flooring. We're waiting on new doors to come in, and we're doing some work here to get this ready to be a rental house where people can live. That's my job besides being a youth pastor, is managing rental houses. So I decided to start today's video in one of my workplaces, significantly a part of our field trips, and I'm going to have a couple other locations for you today. I'm here at another workplace. I'm here kind of in the industrial center of Linden. We have VersaCold, or Americold, what it's called over here, which is like massive freezers for all our berries and fish. And we got some Dairygold behind us with the towers. We've got fire in the background. I guess they're burning off some propane over at Northwest Propane. Interesting spot, but lots of work going on here. Many people, this is their workplace. This is where they spend their days. And work is important. It's important to be productive. It's important for our society to go to work to produce food and housing, clothing, things that people need. Work is super important. And so Jesus cares about our work too. And what he called Peter to do was to do different type of work. He saw Peter and legitimized his fishing, but he said, "I want you to fish for people now." Now, Peter leaving his job. What did we learn about Peter last week? He has a wife. He has we don't know if he has kids yet. They're not mentioned, but he has responsibilities. He has a house. So Peter has bills. Bills are paid. How are bills paid? By work. Okay. So Peter, we found Peter now. He has gone back to fishing. Jesus has called him to be fishers of men, and now he's fishing again for fish. Now, is that a problem? Not in and of itself. To be a fisherman is a fine job. The fact that Peter was fishing as his career, that's a fine career. It seemed like the career of his family, his fathers, James and John, Andrew, they were all fishermen. But what is the problem here? Jesus has called Peter to fish for people. He's gone back to what Jesus has called him from. So let's read our story and see how Jesus interacts at Peter's workplace. Now, Luke 5:1 says, one day as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret with the people crowding around him and listening to the word of God. So Jesus is preaching, okay? Jesus is sharing the message, preaching the word to repent, turn to God. And verse 2, he saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by fishermen who were washing their nets. Okay, he sees the 2 boats. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. So the crowd was around. He was on the shore. Maybe he was like dipping his heels in the water. He was like, wait, let me get some space. Everyone's crowding around him. Remember, he's been healing people, casting out demons. He's like, I just want to teach right now. And the people are crowding around. He gets into the boat. The cool thing about being on the water is water carries sound really well. So that probably provided some natural amplification. Also created a gap for him to just sit and teach the crowd without them crowding around him. So he sits there and he teaches for a little while. Verse 4 says, when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch. Now, Simon had been fishing all night. This was the normal time for fishing to happen, especially maybe, I don't know, we can ask Danny more about when fish bite, but early mornings I've heard. So fishing in the night is a common practice. They were done fishing for the day. It says already that they were mending their nets. So they're fixing their nets, any holes in their nets, repairing them for the next night of fishing. They're not looking to go out fishing again. Here's the story. Simon answered, Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down my nets. Now, who's the expert fisherman here? Jesus or Peter? Simon Peter. Peter, right? He's the one who's been fishing his whole life. Probably his father's trade too. So here we have a carpenter rabbi telling the fishermen how to fish. Do you think that bugged Simon at all? Maybe a little bit. That, hey, you stick to carpentry and preaching and healing, I'll stick to fishing. But he is obedient. He kind of gives his excuse. He's like, we've been fishing all night, haven't caught anything. Maybe he's just like, all right, we'll show you, Jesus, there's no fish out here. I don't know what his attitude is here, but that's what I would suspect. So Simon had already fished all night and not caught anything, but he obeyed and let down his nets. Now, they go out into the deep water. Deep water isn't the best for fishing. Like, they're not eating there. Like, maybe there's some deep sea fish, but I think this is also a unique spot in the deep water. Maybe that's why it's emphasized there. So, Master, I will let down the nets. When they had done so, gone to the deep water, let down their nets, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So Jesus does a miracle here. I'm not going to say Jesus knew the right fishing spot or anything. This is a miracle. We're going to see that it continues to be a miracle. It's unbelievable amount of fish. Peter is obviously shocked. They have so much that their nets are beginning to break. So they signal to their partners in the other boat. Later we'll find out that that's James and John. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. There's so much fish now that the boats are beginning to sink. How awesome is that? See, I'm at work. There's trucks going by. So, unbelievable amount of fish filling now 2 boats. What is Peter's response? Obviously shocked. Wow. When Simon Peter saw this, what did he see? I think he saw the load of fish, the miracle. He saw the miracle. He fell at Jesus' knees. Okay, fell at Jesus' knees. Usually if you're bowing down somebody, you'd fall at their feet. I don't know for sure, but I feel like Jesus is up to his knees in fish. Like the boat is completely full and he is up to his knees in fish. So Peter can't fall at his feet. He falls at his knees. How cool is that? Just to get a picture. This is what he says. So this is another reason why this passage is so different than those other callings, because of Peter's response. Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man. Why would he say that? Like, is he just revealed of his sinfulness, or has Peter done something against the Lord? Has his sin been revealed? I think that's true. That Peter was supposed to be with Jesus doing the ministry, and he's gotten back to fishing. Why gone back to fishing? Because he had bills to pay. He had needs. He had a household. He had a wife, a mother-in-law who was staying with them. He had to provide. Maybe his mother-in-law was nagging at him. I don't know. She has a good opinion of Jesus now. He just healed her. Maybe the wife was like, hey, Peter, when are we going to get some fish money? We got it. We have these bills to pay. We don't know. But that's possibly the circumstance. What motivated him to go back to fishing? Probably needs. I wouldn't say greed, because he's just trying to work at it. It's not necessarily greedy what his sin was, but he's focused on the wrong things. I think that's his main sin. Of course, he's a sinful man in other ways. Maybe those are the things that came to his mind at that moment. But Peter is repentant nonetheless. And we see what he changes. Repentance means not just to be sorry for what we've done, but to turn the other way. So in seeing what Peter does next, reveals to me that he was repenting from going back to fishing instead of serving the Lord. So, go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man. For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. And so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. So those are the guys in the other boat. It doesn't mention Andrew, but I assume Andrew was here too. It says the other men. So Andrew was probably with his brother Simon fishing. Then Jesus said to Simon, don't be afraid. From now on, you will be able to catch men. So this is what he's saying here is where I get his response, is he's saying, don't be afraid. From now on, you will be able to catch men. This is what Jesus is asking him to do. Go back to follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. It's a slightly different wording, which is why it also disconnects from the other passages. So, what's the response? They pulled up their boats on shore, left everything, and followed him. Now, they've already kind of done this. They left their boats with their father and followed Jesus. But I think this is the last time. Well, it's not the last time, but he's leaving them. Maybe he didn't sell the boats. There's other people working in it. His father, maybe. Like we have Zebedee working the business. But he is now committed. We see a radical turn in Simon that he is going to follow Jesus. All right, we're going to go to a new location related to the workplace. My third location here is Linden High School. There she is. This, right now, for most of you, is your main workplace, your school. This is the task you set aside time every day to do. This is what your main job is. Some of you also have other jobs, which is great. And this can apply to your workplaces, but this will definitely apply to what you do someday as your main occupations. And it's not that Jesus hates work. God created work. We all see the benefits of work. It's that your work needs to be in the right order. Your work can also be a mission field. And for Peter, his work was not his mission field. Jesus was calling him to a different mission field. And he had gotten those things out of order. He was essentially trusting in his own work to provide, not in Jesus. So there may be times when you're called away from your work or to a different work, maybe that pays less, but that provides for better opportunities for God. No way. There's a fire alarm? A fire drill, right when I decided to do this video. That's terrible. All right, here at a fourth and unplanned location, another school, then a middle school. Maybe some of you go here. But how does God view your work? Maybe that's your school. The things you do really include sports in this too. The things you pursue and why you pursue them. Does he care about them? Does he only want everyone to do church work, to be missionaries? Or does he care and want you to be doing the things you're doing, but in the right order? I think he cares about the sports you play, the way you do your schoolwork, that you put your effort into that, and you can do all those things to bring him glory. It's not that he doesn't care about those things, it's that he wants those things in the right order. But if God calls you, like he did Peter, to give up something that you do for work or play, and to give him that energy in that time, what Jesus is saying here with the massive catch of fish and Peter's concerns is, Peter, please obey me. I will take care of the details. I can provide. Don't worry about those other things. So, what is the method? What did Jesus do here? Jesus goes back for Peter after he's gone back to fishing, and he does a miracle to show he can provide. Peter's gone back to fishing. We've talked about maybe why, but probably to provide. Peter repents right here. He falls at his knees and he leaves fishing, parks the boats, and goes and follows Jesus. So that's what I assume he's repenting for. And Jesus' miracle says, you're worried about fish. I can make it happen. I will provide. Peter, I've got this. Don't worry. I will provide for your family. And that's something that's so important. It may not look the same. Missionaries often had to be dependent on others, which, like for my friend Jacob and others that have become support raising missionaries, is a challenge. You have to go around asking people to support you. When Jacob and Chelsea went to Gold River on the mission field, they had to go around asking people for donations to fund their salary, to fund their living expenses, to fund their moving expenses, so that they could do what God was calling them to. But that's the most amazing thing, is God will provide the means to be obedient, to do what he's asking you to do. And that's what Jesus was telling Peter. He was showing him that he could provide. Why did Jesus do this? Jesus had chosen Peter. Jesus knew he needed Peter on his team, on his side, following him, doing the work. Jesus had chosen Peter and wanted him fishing for men full time. Jesus didn't want Peter fishing for fish full time. He wanted him fishing for men full time. There's actually one more story where Peter goes back to fishing after Jesus died. Do you think that Peter thought maybe, and this is after Peter has rejected Jesus? I think all those things are together. We'll study the story later in a few weeks. But Peter goes back to fishing one more time after Jesus dies and is resurrected. I think Peter thinks he's unqualified for ministry and goes back into fishing work. But Jesus once again calls him from fishing. And this time he gets his coat. I'm getting ahead of myself, but he gets his coat, jumps in the water, and swims to shore when Jesus calls him. What an amazing thing. Peter was maybe as one of the older disciples, a more conflicted person with providing. The other disciples being younger. This is why I tell students, like, that gap year after high school is an amazing time. Some students will take a gap year and you can go do missions. You can go to a one-year Bible college. Maybe like before you start your career or the training there, like to do something different just because it's simpler, it's easier. Not that God can't call a 40-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 50-year-old, a 60-year-old to move and do something differently. God can do that too. But there's a sweet spot there for the younger disciples, that it was a little bit easier for them to leave fishing. Like for James and John to leave fishing, Zebedee's got it, right? We don't hear about Peter's dad still running the business. Maybe it was his responsibility, so he bore more of that burden. For James and John and Andrew to leave fishing, follow Jesus, they were younger. They had less responsibilities. God knows that life requires work. He cares about our work, and he wants our work to be in right order following him. He cares about your school. He cares about your sports. He cares about the things you do, the jobs you work. He cares about those things, but he wants them in the right order. He wants to be in charge of your whole life. And that means your work, your school, your sports as well. That those things are not conflicting with his purposes for you, but that you are using those things for his purpose. That's what he wants, to bring him glory, not just to spread the gospel, but also that work is valuable. And work can bring God glory by doing the very best at your work. It would be awesome if you guys can find jobs in your future that you enjoy, that can bring God glory, that you can work with your hands or your mind or your mouth to in speaking or creating or thinking or computer work or whatever, to bring God glory and do your very best. We need people to do amazing things at their workplaces to make this world function. But and God knows that too. He set that up. Adam in the garden, he wasn't just sitting around. He was working. He put Adam in the garden to work it and to keep it. He had work to do. I think we'll have work to do in heaven. God will have purposes for us and work for us in heaven. Work is not the curse. The ground was cursed. Work became toil. We are made to work. We are made to produce, and that's a beautiful thing. So for us, what does this matter for us? If Jesus will provide, whatever it takes to follow him. Jesus will provide whatever it takes to follow him. If Jesus is asking you to move across the world, he's going to provide the means. If Jesus is asking you to maybe not take a promotion that's going to move your family and disrupt things in another part of the country, God will provide with the salary that you have. If God is asking you to take a lower paying job, but for his purposes, God will provide. If God is asking you to become a pastor or a missionary, which maybe doesn't pay as much, God will provide. And that we can trust God with that. This is something I've struggled with in being a youth pastor. Lower paying job as what I could be doing other things, but God has provided. God has kept me in one place for a long time, allowed me to establish here. He's given me, like I showed you, my very first place we were at, a different work that I could do to also bring in dollars for my family, to also find ways to provide, but still get to do youth ministry, which I love to do. So many of my friends have not done youth ministry this long, and the money is one of the major reasons. And they're not wrong for leaving youth ministry, but God has provided a way for me to continue, and I love that, and I'm so thankful for that. And that's with my property management business. So we can trust God with that he will provide the means necessary to obey him. He's not going to assign us a task that's impossible, that makes us starve and die. He will provide. It may look different than we expect, but he will provide. There's some discussion questions on there, and I would love Jessica to take over with some of those discussion questions, and you guys have an amazing time. I'm sorry I missed this morning's study. I'm sorry I didn't get to take you on a field trip, but you got to do a little field trip with me. Next week, we'll be going on another field trip to a new location, and I hope you guys have an amazing week. Go Hawks.